What is going on, guys? I hope you're all doing well. Before we start with the video, I just want to remind you guys to please subscribe to the channel for more NBA content like this. And also, if you do enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like. It makes a big difference in helping this channel grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, so today I want to talk about chaos. And when you talk about chaos, you have to talk about the Eastern Conference and the position that it's in right now. It is, to put it kindly, a fucking mess. And in a good way, like this isn't a bad thing that the East is like this. And actually, I'd argue this is a very good thing given the history with the Eastern Conference and how historically weak it has been for years now, right? I mean, for my entire life watching basketball, the East was always the weaker conference. All the star power was in the West. It was never really competitive in the East, especially in the playoffs, because it was always, okay, whatever team LeBron's on, they're going to the finals, right? And there were a couple of years where that was different, right? I remember the Celtics made it competitive, the Magic with Dwight Howard made it competitive, but for a lot of it, the time, it was just, Miami and Cleveland, especially this past decade, right? From 2010 to now, till LeBron left Cleveland, it was LeBron in the finals every year. So the East was not that competitive, and there was not really any challenge to it, right? But for the past couple of years, right until LeBron left, there were some challengers that showed up, right? Boston got those young guys in Tatum and Brown. Giannis started to develop and become a superstar. So the East was heading into the direction where it was weak, but still, it was always the Western Conference that had the attention, right? And this was even before LeBron, because it was okay, you had, when Kobe was there, he was on the Lakers. Steph and the Warriors, the Thunder with KD, the Spurs with Duncan, Ginobili, and Tony Parker. The Grizzlies at the time were really good. The West just had more teams that were competitive. The Lob City Clippers, you know what I mean? And there's probably more that I can't remember off the top of my head. There were so many teams in the West that were so competitive, and you never knew who was going to make it out every year until the Warriors had their run. That was not the case in the East, but we're now at a point now where the East is a complete mess. If I look at the standings right now, and of course, this is going to change by the time this video is uploaded. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning, February 1st. When I upload this tomorrow, it could be very different. Because right now, the top 6 in the East is a 2-game difference. The number 1 seed right now is the Bulls and the Heat. They're both tied right now for the number 1 seed. But the 6th seed is the Brooklyn Nets right now, and they're only 2 games back from first. That is unreal. The Sixers are 3rd, and they're a half a game back. The Cavaliers are 4th with 1 game back. The Bucks are 5th with 1.5 game back. And that's just the top 6, right? These are the playoff teams. But if you even want to stretch it to the play-in teams, the Hornets are 4 games back from number 1. The Raptors are 5.5 games back. The Celtics are 5.5 games back. And the Hawks are 7.5 games back. It is very, very fluid right now in the East. I remember when the season started, it was Brooklyn that had the top for a while. Then the Bulls went on a really good winning streak, right? And they were the number 1 seed for a little bit. Then the Bulls kind of had their COVID outbreak and all the injury bugs, and they went on a bit of a losing streak, and the Heat took over. And now the Heat and Bulls are basically right there at the top. Also, the Sixers have emerged. The Cavs are having an unbelievable season. The Nets have been dealing with injuries to KD and Kyrie being a part-time guy, so they've fallen off. The Bucks, I mean, they're 5th. I don't think that's an issue, but they've had a few games where it's not been too great. So, again, that's just proof. The East is not so secure right now. We don't know who's going to make it out. We don't even know what the standings are going to look like and what the matchups are going to be. Because, in contrast with the West, like I said, in the East, the 6 seeds are 2 games back from each other. If you want to look at the West, the 6 seeds are 12 games back from each other. The Suns are 40-9. They have the number 1 seed. And the 6th seed right now is the Dallas Mavericks. They are 12 games back from number 1. So as opposed to the East with a 2-game difference to a 12-game difference, that is unbelievable. And everything I talked about with the East being very top-heavy going into the season, I was wrong. The West is very top-heavy. If you look at it right now, the Suns by far have the best record in the NBA, and the Warriors are right behind them. But after that, I mean, there's still a significant fall off from where the Grizzlies are third, then the Jazz, Nuggets, Mavericks. Like, nothing is so certain in the East as opposed to the West. You know the Suns are probably going to get the number 1 seed. You know the Warriors are most likely going to get that number 2 seed. Probably the Grizzlies, and the Jazz have been dealing with injuries. The Nuggets have been dealing with injuries. So the top 3 in the West, I could see that staying put. I could see that not changing, right? I could even see this order not changing for the rest of the year, right? But in the East, the Bulls are first right now. There's no guarantee they'd be first. I mean, with Lonzo Ball being out, with Alex Caruso being out, with Javonte Green being out, like, they've been dealing with injuries after injury after injury. And, you know, for them to barely hang on to first is impressive, but also, like, a couple game slide, a bad losing streak, and they can drop off all the way to 6th, right? And the same thing can happen with the Heat. Same thing with the Sixers, right? A few bad games here and there, or a significant injury, could push a team from the top seed and getting home court in the playoffs to just barely avoiding the play-in, or maybe even falling into the play-in category, right? Like, the Bulls, on paper, could fall to the play-in tournament. Like, that's legit a thought, and that's scary to think about, right? If you're a fan of one of these teams, no one knows how this is going to end, and it's just like, I have never seen in my life watching basketball a conference this competitive, and it's a good thing, right? But it's also, if you're a fan of one of these teams like I am with the Bulls, it's nerve-wracking as hell, because, you know, on paper, I'd be happy with the Bulls being the number 1 seed halfway into the season. I'd be feeling really good right now. But we're tied with the Heat, and we can just, you know, if we lose a couple games and we go on a little bit of a slide, which is possible with this team, we could drop off to 6th or 7th. That's terrifying. Like, that's just terrifying to think about. And we do not know what's going to happen here, man. Like, the Celtics, if they get on a bit of a run, because they've been playing well recently, right? They could jump up to the top 4, you know, possible. They can. The Hornets are 7th right now. They could fall, they could jump up and lock in a playoff spot. One of these top 4 teams could fall and be, you know, in the first round and not have home court. That's wild to think about, man. Like, it's just crazy, man. Like, the East, there's just, like, you could realistically, if you want to talk about, like, teams that could be in the playoffs or the play-in, you could argue every team but the Pacers, Pistons, and Magic. They could all make the play-in. Like, even the Wizards and Knicks have a chance to make the play-in tournament. I don't know if they will, because, again, this is all very fluid, but that's just what it is right now. I realistically do not know what's going to happen here. If there's a couple of predictions I can make, it's that the Nets will not finish 6th. I think they'll be in the top 5. I just think that it'll be better when KD comes back. It's going to be tough, of course, with Kyrie being part-time, Harden being inconsistent and whatnot. The Bucks, I think they'll be in the top 5 for sure. I just think that there have been some injuries and they've had a little bit of a slide. They haven't been as dominant, even though they're still a really good team, and they're still my favorite to win the East. The Cavs, I don't know, man. They've been really good this year. It's hard for me not to say that they won't get like a home court first round, but they could. They very well could, man. And that's crazy to think about. The Sixers have Embiid, who's my favorite for MVP. I'll talk about that in another video, but the Sixers are still really good. They're legit. The Heat have turned it around, really, given back all those injuries are coming back. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo are playing really well. The Heat are a very dangerous team right now. And then the Bulls, I mean, look, I'll say this as a Bulls fan. I do not see our team getting the first seed as much as I would love for it to happen. But I could see us being the 2nd or 3rd seed, right? But then also, there's a good chance that, you know, because of some issues that have come with this team, especially on defense, right? I could see us, you know, losing some games that we shouldn't, which we already have. And we could fall to 6th or 5th. That would be interesting, right? So, regardless of it, there is no clear favorite to come out of the East, and let alone get that first seed in the conference, right? Anyone who says definitively, anyone who says that, oh, this team's going to come out of the East, or this team's going to get the first seed. No one knows. There's too many factors that have come into play, and too many injuries and COVID and other factors for every team that puts them in a position where you could make a case for them coming out of the East, right? Like the top 6 right now, you could say that team could get out of the East, right? All 6 of those teams, I could make a case for them. But again, the seeding is just going to be chaotic. Whatever happens, it's going to be very interesting, this final stretch, especially when after the All-Star break, hopefully teams start to get healthy and they start to make a push to get to the playoffs and solidify, you know, a top spot. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. As a Bulls fan, for me, as long as we're in the top 4 and we can get home court in the first round, I'll be happy. But, you know, even if we get to 5th or 6th, I just don't want to make the play-in. That's a very scary situation for me. And I'm sure it's that way for any team, right? No one wants to be in a play-in, especially with some of these teams like the Hornets, Raptors, Celtics. Those are dangerous teams to play in a one-game series, right? Anything can happen. So avoiding the play-in is probably the #1 priority for every team. Like, home court might not even be as much of a factor in these teams making their push. As much as they would like it, I think for them it's just avoid the play-in and pray to God we get a good matchup, because the matchups right now could be very tough. Like, the Bulls could get the first seed. Even if they played the Raptors in the first round, that'd be nice, but in the second round, they'd be playing either the Cavaliers or the Bucks. That's not what you want to happen, right? If you're the Heat, you'd have to play the Sixers in the second round. That's a tough matchup. And if you're the Bucks, you'd have to play the Cavs, maybe even the Bulls. If you're the Nets, you'd have to play the Sixers and then the Heat to get to the conference finals. That's crazy. And all of that, you know, away, which actually might be beneficial for Brooklyn. But still, it just goes to show you how fluid this situation is. I don't know what's going to happen here. But what I do know is it's a mess. It's complete chaos. And I'm interested in it, man. It's cool to see the East like this competitive again. I wish both conferences were like this. It would add to a lot more interest into like who's going to make the finals and everything. Because right now, there is no favorite on the East. In the West, I could say the Phoenix Suns are the favorite, right? I think it's easy to say that. They have the best record. They've been playing very well all season. They're probably going to lock up that #1 seed. They're my favorites, but in the East, no one knows. That's the bottom line. Alright, I've been rambling on for too long. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and comment down below your thoughts. What do you think about the Eastern Conference? Who do you think is going to end up with that #1 seed? Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for more NBA content like this. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys, as always, for your continual support. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.